Hello everyone, I am the head of production at LiveX. We are a live technology as services production company based in New York City. We pride ourselves in using innovative technologies to help industry-leading clients all over the world create captivating live events and multimedia to increase engagement and build brands. I've had the pleasure of producing for clients including ClassPass Live, Warner Music Group, DJI, the Times Square Alliance, and the Global Climate Action Summit. And I'm very excited for this technical producers panel. So live production can seem daunting to some. The constantly changing expectations, the challenge of end-to-end transport, and an unforgiving live audience. The people sitting next to me see live through a very different lens. The constantly changing expectations allow for satisfying problem solving. Managing end-to-end means we get a holistic view and control over the workflow. And the live audience gives the energy that powers our sense of urgency. Some may call this crazy. Sometimes we call it crazy. But it's that craving for crazy that brings us back for every show. I've also had the pleasure of working with some of these panelists, and I want to use this time to walk through their processes for a live show from the production perspective and discuss what makes live special. Before we jump right in, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and give you a bit of their background. Tom?
Hello. I'm Tom. I'm a director. And in the web world, that means that I have to know a lot about tech. A lot of times the creative revolves around that, or we have to have there's a technical problem, and then we have to have a creative solution. I've done Dancing with the Stars All Access, Coachella. I do the red carpets for E. And yeah, I'm using tech all the time in what I do.
Cool. Bryan?
I'm Ryan Durieux. I work for Sweet Spot. We are a production company based out of New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. I am a technical producer for the company, but I handle engineering and coding, basically a jack of all trades, because when you're technically producing an event, you need to know how to fix audio, fix video, fix a camera, just about everything you need to know. So I've engineered productions for Tom, for Brett, and we've all kind of worked together and pride ourselves in that. So, but yeah, knowing everything from the start of once you receive that RFP, following through all the way to the end of the production, I think from my standpoint, knowing all the technical aspects is the most important, because if the tech isn't there, then you can't really have a fully successful production. So it's a little background.
Brett?
Hi, I'm Brett Collins. I'm with BCLive Productions. We're based out of Los Angeles, and yeah, I mean, we all do a very similar sort of thing, so I don't want to rehash everything you guys just said, but end to end is really what we're trying to push. So when someone has an idea, regardless of how crazy it is, I think sometimes the crazier it is, the more interesting it becomes for people like us, because we have to solve problems. So that's really what my job is. It's technical producer sounds fancy, but I'm really just a problem solver, and I do that for clients. Like Google, YouTube, Disney. We do a lot of Disney red carpets for movies and things like that. So yeah, I really love what I do, and looking forward to talking more with you guys about it.
Trey?
Cool. Hi, I'm Trey James. I'm with Production Rockstars. Do a lot of broadcast, live stream stuff, technical producing, multi-cam directing, and consulting as well, by way of being a TD and pretty much every other position in the truck. One of the things is I don't just tech produce live streams and broadcasts, but I do a lot of the live event production side too. So from the lighting and staging and PA, comms and RF, a lot of the other elements around. And I also am the director of live event production for the UFC. So we deliver some pretty big shows, a lot of transmissions and stuff that I deal with as well, planning that in.
Cool. So let's just start out with the beginning, preparation and managing client demands. So you've booked the job, and now it's time to build your show and build your team. So the first steps, making a workflow of your show. What are some of the tools that you guys use and you found to help you be successful in these shows?
I personally like OmniGraffle. So I like to, if the show requires a truck, then that's obviously a whole other aspect. But I like to lay down what kind of cable I need, where I need things, how long are the runs, that way, because a lot of times with web, your budgets are a little bit smaller, so you can't just bring all of your toys, so you have to know exactly what you need, and maybe you can decide, like, maybe I need a backup for this, but I like to know exactly what I need and where and how long all the cable things are. So
Yeah.
I like OmniGraffle personally. Yeah.
On Tom's point, I use a program called Lucidchart, but again, I think it starts from, you know, you ask the client says, hey, we want 3-camera show. So 85 to 90% of our jobs are out of a fly pack rather than a truck. So I'm using Lucidchart to either collaborate with my team in New York or in San Francisco, so I can build that workflow and they can also contribute over a shared platform. So it's not just an app that I download, I can share it in the cloud. But that's probably my go-to for building a nice signal flow. So I know, again, like Tom mentioned, knowing how many cables you have, because sometimes you got to fly to these remote destinations and you can't have your truck with you. You got to pack it in suitcases that are under 100 pounds, depending on the airline. So,
Lucidchart you have to pay for, right?
Lucidchart, yeah, it's a subscription-based platform. I believe they're in the Google Cloud. It's an add-on, but again, you can add up to a certain amount of seats. And I think that's one advantage for us, because we have multiple technical producers within Sweet Spot. So being able to share and collaborate on a platform is definitely key for us.
Yeah, and that's something that's very different, because some of you on the panel operate relatively solo because you're a freelancer and you're called in for a job, or you're the lead on the job, but you don't necessarily have a team that you're going to have to hand it off to. Whereas like Sweet Spot and BCLive and LiveX, we have to be able to, what we call the hit by a bus rule. So if something happens to you, the show still has to happen, and the other technical producer in line needs to be able to pick everything up and keep it going. So what about you, Brett?
Well, to exercise that point, I actually find it's good to get hit by a bus before every show and just see what happens. No, I just coming back to before the job's actually booked. I mean, obviously, whenever you get the first call, you're already creating these mental maps to put into these programs. And I have another vote for OmniGraffle because I'm used to that. Although after our kickoff call, I'm going to check out Lucidchart as well. We have a custom FileMaker database that we built for our quoting system, because we couldn't find anything that was quite tailored to what we did. And then once we actually get into the show, then we'll have a shared Slack channel to talk about all the different things that are going on and share floor plans and whatnot. But we've experimented with Basecamp as well. I'm still looking for the program that really solves all those problems at once. It's kind of like we're Frankensteining these sort of things together to make a solution, and they work really well. But there's just I haven't actually found the end-to-end thing as yet for these kind of workflow decisions.
Yeah.
But that's our combination anyway.
I'm not particularly a software-heavy guy, but I do live and die by Excel. Tech books are like the lifeblood of any show. I like to make sure that I can hand off a tech book to any key utility or key member of the team, and they know how to build it. So I don't tend to lay out wires and cables, in diagrams so much, but more so having a solid tech book of knowing where all the feeds are coming from and to. And if it's a bigger project, then I'll hire a second tech manager to do drawings and things like that, or CADs.
Cool, let's talk about content for a second. So I know sometimes we're hired by agencies or the client themselves, and they've already created the content, and it's our job to just fulfill the streaming part of it. Is that often for you, or are you having to also create content? And then in that way, how is the live space influencing the type of content that you're putting out there? It doesn't have to be in order, anyone can go first.
I mean, I think for me, I think a lot of our clients have an idea in their head of what they want to do, and we're executing from, we will either recommend, hey, you should use 3 cameras for this studio show, or, you can get away with 1 camera if you need to. Obviously, it comes down to, hey, what's the budget? But, I think if they do want us to recommend some, creativity on their content, for sure. I think everybody can get creative in certain ways, but I think the majority of the time, the creative for the content is usually always there. And if it's not, then you find that creative producer to bring in, and then you add them to the team, and then put them on the roster. So.
But I do sometimes find that the implementation of it, like they have an idea of how that's going to work, but oftentimes that doesn't gel with what's technically available or what's really going to be cost effective for them, right? So I definitely think it's a role of ours as we start to figure these problems out that we can make recommendations to say, you know, this may not be the best way to get your message across.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I ask early on to clients is, you know, they'll babble on and on about what they want and all this. Where is this going? What is the final end product, the end game of where this is living? And then let's back into our content needs from there. Like, you know, how important is the content, whether it's screen content or videos? Is this going on social? Does this need to be shot a certain way? So not so much answering the question of, you know, do they already have the content or not, but figuring out what are we actually doing with the content, and then let's kind of devolve a workflow around that.
And I think a lot of people get excited about the fact that they're going to have a live show, but they haven't necessarily thought out, well, in order to get a live audience, you still got to promote, you know, X number of weeks or whatever it is before. So you need to have a ramp-up plan going into that. And although that should really go into more of a creative producer kind of role, I think because we're, as technical producers, sorting out solutions for them, we have to be cognizant of those factors.
I think that there's a lot of people who are doing webcasts who probably it's their first time or they're not really used to it, so the hand-holding is probably a little more important. They probably have what they want, but they don't know how much it costs and what the realities are, so I'm always kind of like, what are the realities here?
Yeah. What are some content challenges that you've had in the past that, because it was a live show, that I feel like a lot of clients have more of a produced background, so they're used to being able to take it into post, so they come up with these ideas and then they want to do it in the live space, and that just causes a couple more bumps in the road. What are some like challenges you've come up with, or solutions you've come up with to challenges in that?
I say budget. I don't think there's anything that we can't do live. I mean, we're in 2018. We can do AR live, so it's just really a matter of having a budget and being honest and, you know, up front. Just to veer off just a little bit, I'll tell a client up front, like, what's your budget? You know, they put together a quote for a 3-camera live stream, and I tell people this all the time. We can live stream off of your iPhone, or we can live stream out of 10 TV trucks with AR and a bunch of replays. It's still a live stream. What can your budget support so that we can give you whatever you want, and then come to a realistic game plan off of those numbers?
Yeah. I also think that web is a little bit of the Wild West, where they say, oh, we don't have a lot of money. Well, a lot of money to someone who has never had a live show is very different from a lot of money who does, you know, network TV,
right,
or something like that.
What is a
low budget? What is a medium budget? So yeah.
I would say that one of the content challenges is timelines, right? So expectations for deliverables, people don't necessarily think that they can just give you these files right before the show goes live. And, you know, obviously there's, depending on what you're playing out with, some of these devices have I mean, I see smiles and nods coming from the audience, like we've all faced this. Different devices have different codec requirements, different bit rates, different frame sizes. And without the opportunity to test all those things, you find yourself in a lot of trouble. So I think setting expectations for clients of this is when you need to have these assets to us by is something that we can do to help massage some of those problems through.
And I think another thing in massaging those problems through is a lot of times there may be a decent budget, but you have same-day set strike shoots. So there is no time to really test out the content. And it's not so much of having it, it's just that the budget doesn't exist, or even the venue may not be available to do test a day or two before. So finding time, or even if you may want to test in the warehouse or test in the shop, but you may be on a show the day before. So it's really a lot of times it's just testing the content, whether you have it or not, whether the budget exists or not, to make sure that the workflow and the show is going to be smooth. And also, one of the challenges with live is that you get a lot of people who know how to do live streams, or they really understand the technical workflow, But I think a lot of clients expect you to kind of automatically, like your rundown is you're supposed to do the rundown and all these other things. And some people don't know, like, okay, if we have multiple screen, what's hitting IMAG, having a good show flow to show where the content is going, where it's going to live during the show, and really timing out a show is where I think a lot of lack comes, and the client just assumes that you're just going to do it when they give you the files.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing the runner show?
You become their producer,
your show,
their director,
right?
their everything. They just they think of live stream and they think it's just all inclusive of the world. So
Creative and the tech are always kind of
Right. For example, we were in Germany, and we were in a big old industrial building, and about a couple hours before, hey, we have a section over here that we want to cover, and there's a big, huge cement metal wall in between. And like, oh, why can't the tear deck just go through?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work like that. So, if you want to get us some nice long cable or maybe some fiber, sure, we'll throw it on again. But do you have the extra?
And then the rehearsals are happening.
Right.
and
So you just got to, again.
There's
I
a lot
think
of hand-holding.
Yeah, I think it comes back to setting an expectation, like, yes, this can work, or no, it can't. And, but if we had an extra day or more budget, then. Sure.
And I think one very important thing to keep in mind is that once you get on site, the client doesn't care about what they did or they didn't pay for. Like, you're there, you didn't do your due diligence to make sure that they really understand what your roles are and what your roles aren't. And once you're there, whether they expect it to be recorded, if you're there, they expect it to get done. I mean, they don't want to hear about what we didn't build or didn't build before we got there. Just do it.
It's a balancing act too, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of clients who are very live production savvy now. So it's that balancing act of, there's hand holding, but then also you don't want to seem like you're talking down to someone that knows what they're doing. So it's just asking those leading questions, and you can tell pretty quickly, typically, if someone has an idea. I think the worst thing for us is people that think they know, and then you just have to bite your tongue. But then eventually you're gonna have to be planning for that as you start up the show.
Yeah. Time and money. Don't we wish we all had more of that? Cool. Well, you mentioned IMAG earlier, and I'd love to chat. I was at a concert recently at Madison Square Garden that the IMAG screens were vertical and everything was shot vertically. And I was very put off by it at first, and then realized I'm seeing more of the solo performer themselves, so it kind of makes more sense than showing me the wide stage that I have perfect view of in my nosebleed seat. So how are you guys getting more calls for vertical video at all, since phones are obviously a major form of viewing? Not that you can't easily turn it sideways, but just wondering if that's something that you guys are seeing more of a need for.
I personally haven't.
I think just about every request now, it's, hey, we want to go to Facebook, Periscope, and Instagram. And that Instagram question is coming up more and more now. And I think that's definitely going to be tackled sooner or later. I know some people have tackled it. But again, there's workarounds for everything. But I know, and I was just talking to Wowza, and they have in their Wowza, in the Clearcaster, you can feed it vertical video. So I think it's definitely, we're getting steps there. But the call is, they're coming more and more.
And then that kind of bottlenecks your graphics and where do
Right.
things go?
Right.
Where does everything
Separating
go?
feeds
Is
out.
that actually a dead space, or is it just like
In the concert
box?
world, I find that vertical screens, LED walls, are very commonplace in touring.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I've seen those for like set purposes, but to use it as an iMac was something I just hadn't seen before.
I think it's pretty commonplace there, but whereas you don't have the issues of graphics, they're literally shooting to, and you have rasterizers and scalers and stuff that are built because you've had so much time to plan that out and rehearse that and get that frame right. I think I think you see that in an iMac situation on bigger concerts or events where you have a lot of LED and set and things like that.
But oftentimes the iMac, for us at least, when we're taking it in, the iMac is our stream as well. So if we're being told that we need to feed vertical iMac, then we have to either
it's another switcher?
yeah, it's a whole other
cut,
thing,
it's
or
another
we've
camera
now got a
framing.
whole vertical show, and we're having to figure
So
out.
we actually had a request recently. We just did an 11-week mobile gaming tournament that was entirely vertical. So because they wanted the full frame of the camera, we were building custom rigs where the camera was 90 degrees, which of course gives you monitoring issues and all that sort of stuff. So we had to solve for that, as well as, as a director, now your multi-view is now vertical as well. So it's a whole new world, and it was an interesting challenge to solve for. Obviously, the Instagram thing, getting switchers and all that sort of stuff into Instagram Live it's a little tricky. We do have a
It's a
workaround
hack.
for it. Yeah.
It's a hack.
Yeah, it's
a hack.
Yeah, it
TV
is.
hack? Is that
Well,
Tricky.
it's like managing that expectation with the client. We had someone asking us to do Instagram Live as well, and we also had the hack in place, but just managing the expectation of this is a hack at
Right.
the end of the day. Like,
Exactly.
this is not
It may
approved
not
by
look
Instagram
amazing.
at any moment. They could decide they don't want us to be a part
Right,
of it
and the
anymore.
big disclaimer is, you are violating the terms of service.
Exactly.
We can facilitate that, but it's your channel.
The onus is on you.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's your channel. So if you want us to solve the problem for you, we can. But you just need to know that going in. I still haven't seen them take anyone down, but
Could be
Cool.
listening.
So
no one from Instagram here, right?
Right.
no, Facebook canceled their panel earlier.
Okay, cool.
So what makes live so special? Obviously, we all work in the live environment. We don't work in, we don't make commercials, or we don't. Sometimes you do, but that's not your bread and butter. What makes live so special to you? And then how do you find that you're able to elevate with interactivity when live? What type of API pulls have you guys done, or working with interactive players, anything like that?
To me, live is like a sport, Once the kickoff happens, you're there until the end of the game, whether you're down by 100 points or you're winning, you have to see it until the end. So to me, that's why I think it's it's an adrenaline rush. In terms of, I'm sorry, the other part of that?
Like interactivity. Yeah, we can all talk about why we love live first.
Yeah,
and then
okay. Yeah. Why do you guys love live?
Two-part question.
I mean, I like I said, like Tom said, I think the adrenaline rush is great. I think solving something right then and there, rather than emailing a client back and forth for a post video 14 times, I can't stand that. So I like the live production atmosphere, because it's just, like Tom said, you start it and you finish it, and then maybe you have, here's a file, and then see you later kind of thing. But
Walk away.
I like the thrill of live production. And if something breaks, which if you're an engineer, you're kind of doing nothing during a show. That's the whole goal, because everything's working. But when you do get that,
sports.
hey, this is where you know exactly what to fix, and I kind of enjoy those little moments, even though I don't want them to happen. But
Yeah, it's definitely a one and done is definitely a thrilling thing, and I do think that there's my background in Australia was performing live with music, and this is the closest thing to being on stage that I found, because it is a performance. As when you're live guys, I think it's developing that skill set. It's the never look back skill set, right? So if something happens in live, you can obsess about a mistake, and it can ruin the rest of your show. But it's the discipline of being able to just keep moving forward and go, all right, that happened, let's focus on the rest of it. I really enjoy that.
For me, one of the things about live is just different than any other part of the business, especially when it comes to movies and stuff, is I don't want to be around the same people for an extended period of time, for months and months on end. So the fact that we get to hop from crew to crew and show to show and be in a different city, and no one show is ever the same, that's part of the allure of live to me. And the other part of it is, especially for my peer group in particular, live is special. Everybody, can go to the store and buy a camera, a GH5. Everybody can go buy, get a copy of Adobe Premiere online somewhere. But not a lot of people know live. Not a lot of people understand live. They know about the business, and especially getting to do it on a scale. I'm not talking about just, a church live stream to Facebook, but not a lot of people really get the opportunity to put together really cool big events for brands and the ideation of them, and select trucks and select cameras, and it's just fun. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush. It's a badge of honor, I think, to be somebody that gets to do those type of things, because while the community may seem big to us, it's really pretty small.
Mm.
Yeah,
And to Tom's point too, the whole sports analogy, I love the team as well.
Oh, yeah.
The team is everything. I mean, you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with, and I think we've all been really lucky in having some incredible people to work with, and it's a testament to them. It's a testament to us that, you know, it takes everybody firing on all cylinders to make these events really sing. So,
Yeah,
And
I
I'd
think-
also-
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, coming from my background was mainly from theatrical directing. So just the idea of everyone, you're all in it, everyone's looking at you, and you have to make it happen no matter what's going on. And exactly, if something happens, you have to just throw it over your shoulder and keep pushing forward. And you can talk about it later, but right now we're in the moment. Yeah, go ahead.
The actors too. I mean, they
Yeah, exactly. That's
rely
what I
on
mean,
you
yeah.
to make sure that they look okay too. No, I was just going to add that. I mean, because the budgets are sometimes small and sometimes they're huge. No matter what the show, when you count in from 10, it's intense. Whether it's like a 1 camera or it's like a 12 camera show or something. So, yeah.
So true. Yeah, we could talk about the live all day long. So interactivity, obviously, it's becoming very big, whether it's you're just pulling in tweets based on a hashtag, or you actually have polling in the player. What are some things that you guys have seen, or some options that clients have asked for that are not yet created and that you're having to either figure out on the fly or, you know, say, let's pivot to something else?
Tag board. So I use it for all of the social because it works with broadcast. It's a little annoying that you have to key it. I mean, it doesn't come with a key fill, so you have to key out green. But it's, if you're using expression or you're using a system like that, the operator has to handle the copy paste, and then there's a person that's over their shoulder and they're telling them where it goes. With tag board, you can just say yes, 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 and then you queue it up and then you go. It would be good if they had a plugin for expression, because I know a lot of the broadcast trucks want expression. As far as what I would want that I haven't seen, Tagboard has added this, but there's a lot of times where you have to, where the host is speaking about a post and then they want to hop back, so you want to go back, but you might want to have to hop back 2 posts or 3, so to avoid the kind of like, okay, you see the next one, next
like
one,
a
next one.
history.
I think
Yeah.
that's available on Tagboard Producer now.
Yeah,
On the
but
new one, I think
it's-
you can just directly click
Yeah.
to it and it'll go. I
Interesting.
think.
Okay.
We'll
okay.
test it after.
Tagboard producer.
Yeah, we'll test it.
There's a tagboard. I'm sure Dan House knows.
Yeah, I mean, I'll back up Tom's tagboard point. His nickname, I call him Tommy Tagboard. He saw me, he said, hey, let's use
I saw
tagboard for
clients
this.
on it all
And he got us to use it on a recent production, which was great. But I think for interactivity, I think we've been exploring a platform called Maestro. And you can embed just about any player into Maestro, and they'll create, design however you want it. And the good thing about Maestro, you can fire call to actions and points. It's a sale. Hey, Tom Brady just came on the screen. Here's his jersey for sale. Click here, and right on the side it'll bring up your purchasing, and you put your credit card while you're still engaged in the stream. So for us, exploring Maestro has been awesome.
So is that a thing that happens on the encoding side?
It's
not in the
a
controller?
layer. It's
They have it-
basically they'll build you a web page, and you'll embed your
right.
player. Yeah, and and you can brand it however you like, and just you would have kind of a Maestro producer, kind of like how you'd have a tagboard producer, someone firing those graphics when you want and whatnot. But I think that's definitely the biggest tool we've seen that's been helpful for us.
Yeah, so Tagboard, we use that a lot. I mean, as far as requests go, we've seen a few requests recently for some HQ style interaction. So for anyone that's not familiar with HQ, I don't know if everyone is here or not, but that's the vertical game where they do trivia for money, basically. So I would say over the past 6 months, we've had three sort of real requests for it. So it's something that we're exploring right now. There's no real easy way to do it apart from the application side. I think something with like Maestro may be able to do some things like that, but I don't know without exploring it further. But I do like that Maestro does the full screen sort of takeover and and just inserts ads where they want, and
Right.
has a lot of customization. Yeah. So
Analytics on the back end, the analytics is amazing on Maestro as well, which I think a lot of clients and customers are wanting more of. I think it's definitely, you can only get so much out of YouTube and all these other platforms, but this will really kind of centralize it and give you a lot more information.
Yeah.
and we have done some using Tagboard, actually, some interesting sort of things with polling, where you're playing games with with the people that are on set. Disney does this a lot with, they have a Fry-Yay series, they call it, where there'll be, for instance, a little treasure chest in the middle of the table, and throughout the show, the people are voting on who's going to be the talent to eat whatever's in the treasure chest. Or we had another one where there was live puppies, and the talent was voting on what the name of the live puppy was going to be. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Trey, have you dealt with any of that?
I can't remember the name of the software right now, but we use a software in-house in our broadcast for the UFC, which we take, you can hashtag whatever the UFC Denver or UFC 230, and our social media team pulls it down from the cloud, which tweets they want, and we filtered out certain words and certain things, so we can do that and see pictures within the venue. And then working on some other things, for instance, trying to work with an online fashion retailer to figure out how to do like a fashion show, but to allow the interactivity where you can purchase the outfits that you're seeing live in real time without disturbing the live stream. So some things like that, just kind of R&D, and if you will, right now. But.
Do you guys ever do the like API pulls from the comments yourselves, or is it mainly based on like a tag board or something like that? So if you had someone like that wants to do polling in the comments, like we did a bowling game show where they wanted you had to vote on who you thought was going to win, and those names got the people who voted. Then one name was chosen randomly to actually win money to the bowling alley. So have you guys ever had to deal with the API polls? I know that a constantly changing Facebook API makes that a little bit more complicated, but I wasn't sure if that's something that you're seeing more of, or now that Facebook has added their own polling feature that they're kind of slowly pushing out. Yeah.
Because I was going to say, I mentioned the Facebook polling.
I was going to say, Tagboard, for instance, does not do anything with YouTube comments, and we work a lot with YouTube, so that's a pretty big problem for us. So we had to find something that was customized for us to pull those comments and treat them in the same way that Tagboard treats their social polls.
I think you could probably find, you could find any developer out there that's, they could probably hack something and take it together for you if you needed to. I know there's Telescope is out there and, those platforms, but again, I think now with the availability of all the APIs and all that, you can probably find somebody to.
But are you seeing it? Are you seeing asks
there's more
for
requests
it,
for it,
okay.
for sure.
I mean, I think that the challenging thing for a lot of developers is also the database, right? Because if you're scraping across these platforms, there's so many comments that you have to do to pull these hashtags. Right. So you have to have a pretty solid database management system, whether it's AWS or in the cloud somewhere else, or it's your own sort of system. There's a ton of processing that gets done on those things.
And then on the creative side, like how do you present that? Like, okay, you have the winner. Do you create a custom animation or something? That's also why I think Tagboard works well, because it pulls your data and then you can choose when you click a button, it'll kind of have the cursors kind of go and then it'll show a winner, as opposed to like, okay, we have the winner, but rather than the host say it, your actual on-screen graphic could have a little pizzazz to it.
This was not sponsored by Tagboard,
This is
so everyone knows.
I don't make any money.
Before we go to some questions, because this says 4:30, this is over at 4. We will not keep you until 4:30. I would love to just go down the line and for you guys to give me your favorite piece of gear that you bring on every job.
You might have to skip and come back to me.
I got I know it every time. Everyone always asks.
I already know.
Yeah. Sound Devices Pix 240 has gotten me out of so many jams I can't tell you. It is in my doctor bag everywhere I go. It's, hey, we need to convert this HDMI to SDI, and I'm out of decimators, second tool. But it's just saved me in so many jams, and it's battery powered, and if you need to see a signal somewhere in some remote location, plug in a cable, it'll tell you what it is, and the source isn't giving you the right signal, so. And they don't make it anymore, which is
They don't, yeah.
Is
that
a bad sign? I don't think it's not working. I would say vMix. Production Bot has like a all-in-one Swiss Army knife thing. It's got me out of a lot of jams. The only downside is the output has a delay. So if you're going to like a screen outside, you can see that, but that has gotten us out. I mean, like I've been in a truck and we've used that to do something else. So I would say.
And the delay is just because it's a software switcher. That's what
Yeah,
it's coming out
yeah.
of. It's not. Yeah.
So as long as you're not out to a screen, you're fine.
Well, since you took the decimator away, I mean, bonded cell device, whether it's a Bond or a live view, that's saved more shows than I can count, because whenever you're in an environment where you don't, or even an environment where you do have enough bandwidth, you never know if you're in a facility where a network engineer might change the patch, someone might change the network configuration somewhere along the line, and then your whole show goes down. You know, it could be the most robust network in the world, but without a failover, you're kind of screwed. So those bonded cell devices are amazing, and I will recommend them on every single show I do from now until the rest of time.
I live and die by my Cineroid and my Blackmagic 7-inch. I love to go and, I mean, if you're having a problem with a cable, the Cineroid has HDMI in and out, SDI in and out, mini XLR in and out. With my Blackmagic monitor, I can use it to, you know, send it's got a test pattern on there, signal generator on there, so I can, you know, put the monitor on one end, put the tester on the other end, and see if what's spitting out. So I love that little toy, and plus the Blackmagic 7-inch has you can put 2 SD cards in there, so that's kind of where I get all the footage for my reels. I just find a program out, spigot it somewhere, and just shove it under, and sometimes I get embedded audio, sometimes I don't. But.
Cool.
Sometimes you tell the client, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, you know, something like that.
Mine is also, I love the Decimator MD Cross, but if it's not that, it's a Terranex. It's some sort of conversion device that it was plenty of jobs we've walked into that they were told us they were going to send us one spec down the fiber, and then it comes down and it's completely different than what we need, and our entire send is now screwed, and our cameras don't support PAL or whatever they're sending us, and then we're having to convert everything. So
it's a great troubleshooting tool too, right? If you have a cable and you don't know if anything's coming down, it just straight into the MD Cross. It'll tell you exactly what it's spitting out.
Exactly.
Which is nice.
yeah, cool. So I'd love to take any questions that you guys have. Yep. Go ahead. There's no mics this time. I'll repeat it.
In this space, like, is there anything you do to be mindful about gender equity in this space and help encourage more equity?
So the question's about gender equity in the space and how we're working to do that.
I would really love to answer that question. One of the things I saw when I first came to the UFC is there are not many of me, and it's very obvious that in most spaces I go to, there are not many of me. We took a crew picture the other day in, Denver, and I was the only one of 75 of us, which is a problem. So gender and color equity. I think it's important that we have to make it a point, the tech producers and the department heads have to make it a point to not be uncomfortable to address it, and to do our part and say, I want a woman. I'm crewing a show this weekend, and I will go around the world and out of my way to make sure that we find a woman and or person of color, black, white, Asian, yellow, red, or blue, on the show, because that's truly the only way. And I know me, I started in this business really, really young, and I don't have any fathers or brothers to bring me up in this business. So it's my responsibility now to make sure that we just reach out and make a pointed effort to say, hey, we need more women on the crew, we need more people of color on the crew, and there's no really other roundabout way to go about it than to do it. Last year we did a breast cancer special for BET. Our TD, our replay, 3 of our camera ops, one of our utilities. You'll never see that many women on the crew, and if no one makes the effort, then it's not going to happen.
I mean, I would like to say that something that I'm very proud of with LiveX is that we have 40% women in our company, and they're engineers and producers. They're not necessarily, sales or handling the books or anything like that. And we were actually able to produce an event for Time's Up, and they asked us, if we would be able to add more women to the team just because of the event that it is. And I was unable to attend because I was traveling for another job, and we were still able to supply them with a fully female team, and that was very important to us for that specific job.
There are a lot of jobs where it's like women in film or women in, and there's no women, and it's actually kind of baffling, and the same people with
Yeah.
Right.
It's actually kind of interesting.
I mean, it just amazes me. And I think the other part is not just having women, but paying them equally. You know what I mean? The truth is that I think it's very easy to pay women less because they're willing to take less to get the job. And it's up to the line producers, which I find ourselves, we're kind of line producers and tech producers. You have to make sure, hey, no, you get this rate. They'll undercut themselves, and it's educating them, no, take this rate. Make sure that you're asking for the right rate. If you can do the same job, if I can replace you with the male, then I should be able to pay you as a male because you can pull your own weight.
It's actually a good point. I find that there are a lot of people who, just to get the job, they'll say, oh, well, I'll work for X. And you're like, well, actually, I have this in my budget, so
I'll give you.
you should get it.
Right.
Yeah,
We're going to give you
it's a
what you
line
deserve.
item. Yeah, it's a line item in the budget.
Yeah,
so
right.
thank you for telling me your rate. You'll get.
Right.
Thank you for that question.
Fantastic question.
Anyone else? Yeah. Oh.
My question is about monitoring and troubleshooting during a broadcast. I come from the network broadcast of sports, satellite, and there's an uplink encode for the uplink, and then I can look at a decode of the downlink myself. I can call the client downlink and see how they're doing. We can put a video stream analyzer on the encoder, see how that looks on the decoder to compare. And what are the parallels in a webcast? Do you have a check-in process? And how do you do real-time monitoring during the event to make sure that everything's okay? And if there is a problem, how do you respond?
Questions about monitoring end-to-end in streaming and how it compares to broadcast end-to-end monitoring.
I think for a personal standpoint, I mean, depending on the type of encoder that you're using, it'll give you a different log. Some encoders, it doesn't have a very intuitive log that it's showing you each ping or whatnot. And I think it's also adding in monitoring your bandwidth usage watching your router or whatever it is, watching how much bandwidth you're actually using, I think is even more important than watching your encoder. Because again, like Brett said, some engineer or network guy could just unpatch it and punch it in somewhere else. And if you'll see that your router just drop, and if you have a bonded cell backup, you're covered. But I think depending on the encoder, and then having that streaming engineer dedicated to make sure that stream health is there all the time. I mean, a streaming engineer is always there, always needs to be there.
But to your point, though, I mean, it is more difficult with this paradigm because we are going over the public internet. So there's so many different hops that we just don't have. There's no way for us to have error checking at each one of those hops. So it does pose a unique set of challenges. In addition, a lot of the times we're streaming to these free CDNs like YouTube or Facebook, and whilst they obviously it's in their best interest to keep as much uptime for their platforms as they can, they're not under any sort of obligation to not push out a platform update while you're streaming that might affect your show. So there's a lot of things that are completely out of our hands, and I think we, as tech producers, we just need to keep clients aware of these things. If you want more robustness, then you need to go to like an IBM cloud or somewhere a paid platform that's actually has a vested interest in keeping your stream uptime at as close to 100% as possible.
You had another question?
Yeah, coaching talent in the live space. So I have about 10,000 customers, I'll say, who are also my audience. Only about 5 of them are actually comfortable in front of the camera. We do offline productions and live. And are there any tips or tricks for the 5-minute download of making someone more comfortable in front of the camera? Because we struggle with that.
Tips and tricks for coaching talent.
I always tell people that when you're live on the web, the only people watching are people who are already into that. I don't think people really stumble upon your show. So I think trying to calm them down and maybe downplay how many people are watching Like, only people who are your fans are watching this. You're not on late night where if you yeah. So trying to do that. I think also, if it depends on your show, but I find that talent should look into camera a lot more because the viewer has their phone or their laptop here. Whereas, I mean, you see it in sports a lot where they're having a conversation and then they turn to the wide and they kind of give a head nod and they turn to the wide, they give it. I think you should try and coach them there. And then lastly, just if you have an error, just roll with it because there's no turning back. Or a hand signal or something, or a cue or something, you can go to slate, but.
I mean, as a very physical sort of coaching mechanism, we've done it before where we have put a producer right behind the camera, as close to the lens as you can, and just talk to the producer. Don't worry about the camera, just talk to the producer. Have a conversation with them and tell them about what you're doing. I find that can help take the focus off what can be a very void space if you're looking dead into a lens.
You can use a Barbie if you don't have a person.
There you go.
You can use a Barbie or something kind of goofy or a toy. Yeah.
Testing with Barbies too.
Yeah. It's a great idea, actually. Like
I'm
a toy
putting
dinosaur.
a Barbie in my doctor bag right next to my fix.
I think just reminding people that everyone watching wants you to succeed.
Yeah.
Just saying that to them. Don't let them think about the people who are watching to see what could go wrong. Instead, everyone's watching you because they want to watch you succeed.
And just remind them, you don't look as bad on camera as you think you do. You look
And what's worked for me is telling them that, you know what, your audience simply does not know what you're about to say, so they have no idea that you just screwed up.
Yeah.
So,
The audience doesn't know when you mess
The
up.
only time they know is when you start showing that you know. So just roll with it and you're good.
I could also add to that too. I was at Pop Sugar for 4 years and we had a lot of talent kind of coming in and out. And one thing that we always do is practice because a lot of times they're put in situations that they're not used to, like IFB and reading a prompter. So I think especially with prompter and especially with getting used to talking with the producer over IFB, those two things can be really jarring for talent. Because they're used to just kind of doing their own thing, being on their phone, selfie, you know. Which I'm sure none of your clients are like that.
No, these
They're
are
lovely
clear
people.
scientists and
But I think practicing with that setup is really, really important. Just give them a whole run through of that prompter script and those sorts of things. Really helps.
Bullet points too, as opposed to actual copy.
Yes.
Although that might make someone nervous, I don't know.
Any other questions? Oh, hello. Yes.
Well, just getting back to technical, this gentleman here from the satellite background brought up a very valid point. And as Tom said, this is the Wild West, and it can go anywhere from a major entertainment, political, or even a product keynote that has millions of viewers, and it's very structured and very organized because the message has to be crystal clear, and you have to have dependency because sometimes the stream it echoes relationship with the person. So say you're a computer company, or say you're a studio, or say you're Tom Cruise, or whatever it is. If the stream ends up not being successful, it can shed a light on the actual product or person that you're representing. And so as these stakes get higher, then where is the ability not only to, of course, to protect for the most important, strong, robust stream, because like you said, we all want to succeed. Everybody, the viewer and the producers want well to succeed. But I come from a world where sometimes it doesn't. And I live in a world where I have to deliver 100%. There was a conversation yesterday where someone said, well, it works 95% of the time. And there's a couple of manufacturers that make boxes that cost a fraction of what the boxes I pay for, and their solution is, well, it works 95% of the time. Well, I have to have 100% times, and it's a tenfold cost to get there. But where I'm trying to go with this is then how do you get from how do you get that information, that real-time feedback on the health of the stream? And obviously, these free CDNs have their disclaimer that they're not responsible because they're free. there's some proof that we had viewers watching, and maybe the problem wasn't us, maybe it was your viewers that happened to be in a restricted area.
Cool. So tools to prove signal flow from end to end, and if there's anything that happens in between, proving what the issue was.
I've actually had this happen a bunch. So the logs on the encoder, it says what goes out and all that. Then also you can try and narrow down. So I had a show on Facebook Live. There was a problem with it, and viewers who were already watching were okay, and anyone who came in late was not okay. And the platform was saying it's not their fault, it's not their fault. So just through screenshots and stuff, I was able to prove that it works on mobile, it works on my PC, it works in New York, and I know that's not scientific, but it basically narrowed down to we could prove that it was them and not us. And we could prove that it wasn't the on-site internet. So I would start doing screenshots and stuff. I mean, when you're live too, I know Dan is awesome at this. I'm pretty sure you take screenshots of the viewers and you're kind of checking it and you're seeing that it's outbound and things like that. So you know it's not you. It can be the server, but it's the Wild West.
I would also say that if you're streaming to Facebook, stream to an unlisted page on YouTube, because these things are sometimes it is the platform, right? So if you can prove that you're able to get out, you know that it's not you. And I would also suggest potentially putting just a stream QC of your own, it's a PA or whatever, somewhere off-site, so that if you have any problem with inbound traffic or whatever it is on-site, you have someone independently verifying your stream that can take these screenshots that we're talking about. I think that those kind of tools can help to ensure that you have something to fall back on.
Yeah. And all of those are great. I think that's a great idea. I think another policy is honesty, and there's a delicate balance between, if you will, kissing your client's ass and just being honest. And I've had to tell a client before, listen, the power went out at the Super Bowl, okay, and you don't have Super Bowl money. So you have to understand that we can have all of these, I mean, you can troubleshoot for everything. You can test. Your truck could have just done a perfect show. I've seen a switcher go to crap in the middle of a football show, and you have to punch a show off of a router with no graphics and sync issues and all kind of stuff like that. The reality is something happens, and all of this equipment is man-made. It's all man-operated, and things will happen. And I think 95% if you have 95% success, I don't think that's that great. I think 98%, 99% is better. But there are going to be times where things happen, and while we can truly do everything to mitigate it, sometimes it is on our end, sometimes it is on our fault. It is our fault. But I have to remind a client that human error is not, especially if it's a few seconds. I can see if you lost 30 minutes of your stream, or if you lost a significant amount of revenue. But if you're talking about a free stream, especially something that's being recorded that can be put back up, I'm not going to really allow a client to tie dollars to error that is going to happen. Like you're going to have error, and we're not going to tie dollars to that. I don't think that's appropriate in most cases.
That question was also really, is there a protocol because you're all different sectors, different companies, whatever, is there a protocol in place that you have, and maybe this conversation should open it up, that we should all do this to say, hey, here's our with our invoice, here's our proof of delivery, just so that it just kind of squashes all the noise.
I think that's smart. If you were to do a media buy from Comcast, for instance, they're going to send you a log of every spot and when it ran. Now, who's to say that it actually ran? It's a log. I mean, you could type a log, but you could imagine that they're certifying that it's true that this log. So before they give you your final bill, for all your commercials and stuff that you aired on broadcast, they're going to show you a log of everything.
Yeah, it's kind of managing expectations, but also doing damage control and disappointment.
And I do think that needs to happen on the front end too. Yeah. That needs to happen on the front end. Like I think when you're negotiating your contract up front, there needs to be something in there that's about best practices and that there are errors that can occur. However, unless you're being negligent and causing those errors, there's an awareness that this is live broadcast, and it doesn't, like you said, this doesn't matter how big the event gets. Sometimes shit happens. So I think that needs to happen at the front end. It needs to be built into the contract to say that if this does happen, it's not necessarily on the production company just because something happens outside.
You'll look at liabilities and
Right.
I've got in my contract all kind of clauses that says, if a particular piece of equipment fails, we'll be responsible for the cost of that equipment as it relates to the contract.
Right.
We're not going to withhold the entire job because one camera failed or one lens jammed.
Yeah.
Yet in this Wild West, we've got kids out there working out of the trunk of their car with a bunch of stuff from Best Buy, and then you got guys like me that spend $6 million on a truck, and the client can't tell the difference between us when they're looking at the bids and they go, "Oh, he's cheaper."
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I also think as time goes on, there will probably be a QC of some point. I mean, like a broadcast standard for the internet and a union for encoders or something. Yeah.
And I'm surprised there isn't some,
Yeah.
like sort of having classifications of grading producers and companies like you. You say, okay, he's a grade A, he's a grade B vendor, and that means he actually knows what Blackburst is. Simple little questions like that. Definition of electricity. Having a clue about something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, but the thing is, just real quick, if you go on YouTube and you look at the stuff with a higher amount of views, besides like big events, it's not well produced content. It's terribly lit, it sounds terrible, it boils down to the story. And I think about, when you say about grading, the reality is, and I had to learn this, that I've tried to position myself as somebody that I'm not about to fight for little gigs. I'd rather do bigger quality gigs and make more money than to stress out, pulling my hair out with clients, nitpicking on little bitty stuff. And what's grade A to them is not grade A to us. You know what I mean? They don't care. They really don't care how it gets done. I just left a set before I came over here for a huge client, and I would be embarrassed to say I worked on that TV truck, or bus or whatever it is, but I'll be embarrassed. But they don't care because the client wants a hole, and they don't care how you drill that hole. They just, as long as the hole gets drilled.
And invariably, my experience is that the smaller the budgets are, the bigger the headaches are.
Yes.
All right, well, these guys will be in this room for a little bit longer, so if you guys have any more questions, feel free to come up and grab their attention. I want to thank each of you so much for being here and for taking your time, and thank you guys for coming to the Live Streaming Summit at Streaming Media West 2018.
Thanks, Aubrey.